Hello everybody, welcome to the official Summoners Fables TCG YouTube channel. This is a homemade TCG made by me. I started it around March 1st of 2021, and I believe today is April 12th of 2021. So far, this is what I have. Today we're just gonna take a look into what I've gotten done so far and talk about what's to come on this channel and just what to expect from my card game. Everything you see here is developed by me and made through the Game Crafter. The Game Crafter is just like a website where you can go and put files on there, and they'll make things like cards and tokens and just all kinds of stuff for games that you want to make. I'm so excited to get into this first video, and I cannot wait to see what you guys have to say about this. It started just as like a tiny little side project for me, and now it's really become like my baby. This is definitely a passion project now. It didn't really start that way, but it for sure now is. So before we dive in and dig into everything that you see here, which I know kind of looks like a lot, but it's really not all that much once I break it down for you guys. So the backstory behind this is my little brother loves to draw, and I have two brothers, by the way. They love to play card games. They play Magic. They play, I think it's Bakugan, the one where you like throw the little things and they flip open. And they play Pokemon. They absolutely love Pokemon. They just play all kinds of card games, and I see them doing it all the time. They have their own little binders and they collect, and I just think it's so fun. So one day my little brother was at my house and he was like, hey, I drew some of these things and I know you're kind of artsy. Could you maybe like make them better and draw them better for me? And I took that as an opportunity to start digital art. I bought this iPad secondhand a little long ago with this Apple Pencil because I am kind of a little bit of an artist. I like to dabble in watercolor. I have only ever done traditional art before I started this project, and I thought it would be fun to kind of widen my horizons and start playing with digital art. So it really started when I sat down with my brother and we turned some of his creatures that he had been making into some just art on my iPad. Here, I'll show you. If we open Procreate, we come over here, I have the creatures that we've been working on. And you know, it started out with just drawing some simple little creatures for him. And then I kind of took over and decided, you know what? I want to put some of my ideas into this game. I really want to do some of the things that, you know, I would like to do. And so, you know, I started going crazy with it. I started drawing, doing what I wanted, and you know, things like this just happened, and now I just love doing this. It's so much fun. Creating these little creatures is the coolest ever, and I'm so excited to show you guys like my process of creating and just like all kinds of things. I think in the beginning that doing digital art was very challenging for me because it was so new and weird to me, but I'm kind of getting the hang of it now. And as you can see, I animated a channel intro, and that was a lot of fun. I can't even believe that I was even able to do that. That is just crazy to me that I could even figure out how to do something like that. So this has definitely been like one of the coolest learning experiences that I've ever been through. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the card game a little bit. So, as you can see, these are the backs of the cards. I wanted them to be kind of like gold on purple because purple's like my favorite color. And so I really wanted this set to be really purpley and purple inspired. So we have the gold over the purple, and then I loved the idea of if I was going to have a card game, I wanted to add gems in it somehow because I love gems. I love gemstones. I love collecting rocks. And so on here we have a big gem, which this gem really doesn't have any significance to the game. It's just like a gem that I drew. And this was one of the first things that I drew whenever I decided I was going to sit down and make a card game. And then I came up with the templates, and then I was like, all right, you know, we'll start getting into some items. And then I came up with concepts for different kinds of mechanics that I'll get into later. But anyways, these are standard poker-sized cards. Here, I'll just take a small handful of some of the cards from one of my brother's buckets, and I'll show y'all, and we'll use a Pokemon card for reference. So, as you can see, they're the same size as Pokemon cards, and I wanted them to be standard cards, that way they could fit into game card sleeves, and so it was easy to put them in binders, because really, I'm making this game for my little brothers, because I want to play a card game with them, and I think it's so cool that, you know, they get the opportunity to play with things that they designed, and that they have a huge inspiration in. So I definitely really wanted to make this game, you know, something that we could play together. Okay, I feel like I've been rambling on enough. So, we're gonna start off with, I guess, the rule book first. So I'm gonna clear this off and we'll get down into the rule book. So here we have the Summoner's Fables Pocket Rulebook. It just has some of the characters from the starter deck on the front, because when you open up the starter deck, inside of here will be your 60 card starter deck and the rulebook. And I made this box this size because I wanted you to be able to sleeve your cards and still be able to fit them inside of your box and take with you. And I definitely designed this box with the idea of you keeping it and being able to use it. And you can write your name on the side. It shows you where to get more information and how to play on the Summoner's Fables YouTube channel. And on the back, it says all of the information of the cards that come in the starter deck. So we're going to take out the pocket rulebook and we'll go through that. And then at a later day, we'll discuss what's in the starter deck. This isn't quite finished yet. I kind of love and hate the Game Crafter because my art looks really great and it looks sick on my iPad, but then whenever I put it on things, everything that I've seen so far has been very dark and like just not the colors that I have on my iPad. This right here, these are like very, very accurate representations of what the colors are on my iPad, and these are what the creatures are supposed to look like, and for some reason, it's just on everything else, it prints really dark and weird, and I don't really like it very much. So if you guys know how to, on the Game Crafter, change the settings to where the color filter isn't on it anymore, then you guys should let me know, because I would really love to get these cards out and looking exactly like I want them to and like they look on my iPad. But anyways, that's enough rambling. We're gonna get into the pocket rulebook. So when you open it up, here it shows you a layout of what your field should look like, and it shows you how to set up and start the game. Now, this rule book is a prototype, and the one that is currently up on the Game Crafter and the one that I will be sending out in starter decks is a lot different than this. There's a couple more pages in here, and I switched around things a little bit. That way, it's just better to read and focus. But anyways, we'll go over a couple small short things. So there are a couple different card types in my game. First, we have creature cards. Creature cards come in 7 different types. There's nature, magic, here's a water, a normal. This one is fire and dark. And then this last one over here is normal and ghost. So our 7 different types are going to be water, nature, fire, normal, dark, magic, and ghost. And as you can see here, these are how the types correspond with each other. There are advantages to attacking with certain types. And then there's just normal, who has no weaknesses, has no resistances. It's just a plain old, your damage is what you do. But these are the creature cards. They show their HP up here and their attacks down here. Attacks cost mana points, and every turn you are to gain 4 mana points. And you can use those mana points to spend on attacks, summoning creatures, playing spell cards, playing field cards, and using item cards. So let's say that you summon a mana ray. Now, it costs 1 mana point to summon a Manta Ray, because a Manta Ray is a ruby. Now the different rarities in the game are ruby, topaz, peridot, sapphire, amethyst, and obsidian. Before we move on to, I just wanted to state that amethyst and sapphire, I know they are the same shape, so it'll probably be a little bit hard for colorblind people to, you know, differentiate the difference between the two. But if you take a look here and here at the different shapes of them, the insides are actually different because I already kind of thought about that a little bit, and I didn't want it to be hard for colorblind people to tell the difference between these two. So if you look at sapphire, you can see that it's kind of in a T and not a cross like it is on the amethyst. So these like main prongs run vertical and horizontal instead of crisscross. The cross hatches on the sapphire come out of the middle of each side of the octagon in the middle, and on the amethyst they come off of the corners of each of the sides of the octagon. And each one of those has a different mana point cost for playing it. And how you can easily remember that is it goes from red to black in the rainbow, or red to purple if you're doing colors. And for every mana point or rarity bump up that you have and that you play, the creatures get stronger. And they gain the ability to use attacks that cost more mana but do a lot more damage and have cooler effects. So these would be some examples of just the cards going up and up and up through the rarity chain. I'm also going to put this graphic right here that'll easily show you, and you know, this will be an easy way to see. And as you can see here, there's always going to be flavor text that describes the character and shows you how they interact with the world and just a little bit about them. So this gives a short little description on, you know, this creature, Snifflegruff. And I just think it adds a lot more personality to each character and to each card, and I really enjoyed writing all of these. If you note here, these are abilities. These get activated at any point whenever it specifies. So this creature's ability is too dumb. So what it states is this creature is already constantly confused as it is. Snifflegruff is too dumb to be confused and is immune to the confusion status effect, which there are 4 status effects in the game. There's confusion, poisoned, burned, and asleep. The confusion status effect means that whenever your creature wants to use an attack, say Snifflegruff is confused. Well, that can't happen. Say Snazzle is confused. He has to pay his mana point cost to use his attack, but then you would flip a coin, and if it lands on heads, he gets to attack, and if it lands on tails, you still pay the mana point cost, but you do not get to attack. Poison and burning work the exact same way. Every round that this creature is poisoned or burned, you deal 15 damage times its rarity to the creature that is poisoned or burned. I made it this way, that way you didn't take, per se, an Obsidian Scorched Soul Drangel and, you know, poison it, and then it loses 15 health. Well, it has 365 health. That's not going to do anything. So, this just makes it to where lower mana point cost creatures and lower rarity creatures can still deal damage and still be a threat, kind of. Now, you might have been able to tell that Sniffleskitter is a basic first form. Well, Snifflegruff evolves from Sniffleskitter and is a second form. So what you would do in order to play Snifflegruff is you would play Sniffleskitter, and then on his next turn, if you have the card available, you can play Snifflegruff over the top, and he takes the place of Sniffleskitter on your battlefield. Now, if Sniffleskitter is burned, then Snifflegruff is also burned whenever he evolves. And whatever damage that Sniffleskitter had, Snifflegruff now has as well. Evolution is kind of just like a buff to your creatures. It's like literally Pokemon evolution. So I want to talk about the win conditions real quick, because that's something that I want to discuss before we continue. So whenever you start the game, you'll take 7 cards, 6, 7, and you'll put them off to the side of your field. And then you'll draw your hand, which is also 7 cards, and then you'll play your game. Say Sniffle Skitter is out and my opponent has Necrosum. If Necrosum attacks Sniffle Skitter and depletes all of his health points, then Sniffle Skitter would be defeated and he would go in the discard pile. Now, what I do, since my Sniffle Skitter was defeated, is I draw 1 life card. And I get to add this life card to my hand. I did this because I didn't want kind of how it goes on in other games where you have a life point total where you get directly attacked by creatures or like monsters or whatever. I don't really like that concept. I just think it's like, I don't know, it's just weird. And I don't like the concept of Pokemon either because I think it's a little, I don't want to say stupid, but it's just not how games should work, that whenever you're winning, the snowball effect kind of happens, because in Pokemon, whenever you defeat another person's creature, you draw a prize card for defeating their creature. And that just gives you, the winner, an edge over the person who's losing, and so it creates a giant snowball effect, and it's hard to dig yourself back up. Well, it's not hard to dig yourself back up, but it rewards the person who's already winning, so it's easy to make a snowball effect. I wanted it to be kind of more fair and more equal, so people are kind of on the same playing field and level field. But anyways, whenever all 7 of your life cards are drawn, you're defeated, and your opponent wins. So I want to set up a little basic thing right here. We're going to place some cards down, and we're going to pretend this is my battlefield. I'll put up a graphic right here. I also have this little thing in the rule book that tells you what it is of the layout. But we're going to say this is your battlefield. This is your deck. And this is your discard pile. There are these cards called spell cards in my game. All spell cards cost 5 mana points, aka their amethyst rarity. So, in order to play a spell card, you would pay your 5 mana. So, you would take wherever your mana discard pile is that you choose and just dump 5 mana. And then you can play the card in your spell field area, which will be right under your battlefield. You're allowed to have up to 2 spells at any one time, but they cannot be the same spell. Spells are permanent boosts that like boost you and give you something every single turn. For instance, Gift of the Blessed gives you 1 extra mana point every turn. And so instead of drawing your usual 4 mana points at the beginning of the turn, you'll draw 5. And that can really give you a good boost and give you the edge against your opponent. Or the spell card Beast Whisperer allows you to summon 3 creatures per turn instead of 2, because there is a limit on how many creatures you can summon per turn, and it is 2. And then we also have Tough Skin. This spell makes it to where all of the super effective damage bonuses against your creatures are halved, and all field card damages are halved against your creatures. And when I say field cards, I mean that if a field card designates that it will deal damage to all creatures on the field, then that damage that it is supposed to do is halved. So now let's talk a little bit about field cards. Sorry, I wanted to clear off the desk a little bit, but here we have some examples of field cards. Now, field cards get placed right here above your life cards adjacent to your battlefield. Now, what field cards do is they affect all creatures / players on the battlefield. So, this one, Witherwillow's Overcast, says the field becomes infested with dark magic. All heals are now halved. This field card does not affect drains. So, if your opponent likes to heal a lot in your game, then you can play a Witherwillow's Overcast on the field, and then your opponent's heals are now halved. Or say you're running a sleep team and you like to put your opponents to sleep. You can play Mist of Solomon as your field card. And what this card does is it doubles all sleep effects that you deal on the field. But the thing about these field cards is they work for the entire field. So all of your opponent's sleep effects will also work double too. And then the last example we have is Gaia's Grace. This one doubles all heals on the field. So I wanted to do a lot of them that counter each other, which is really cool because whenever you play a field card, if your opponent then plays a field card as well, you have to discard your field card. There can only be 1 field card active at any time on the battlefield, and the person who plays their field card last gets to be the field card that's open on the battlefield. So if your opponent has a Mist of Solomon up and you don't want that on there, or your opponent, so if you don't want it there, you play your Gaia's Grace, and then they have to discard their Mist of Solomon. And then you can reap the rewards of playing your Gaia's Grace. So I thought these were a really fun mechanic, and it'll be great to see what my brothers do and what, you know, you guys, if anybody actually does play this game, come up with, and the types of teams that y'all run with these field cards, because I wanted field cards to be kind of an important part of the game, and they'll have lots of effects that deal a lot of things, but they're not just a free, like, oh, it's, you know, only 3 mana, you know, that's, you know, relatively cheap, and I get these awesome effects. Well, no, because they also affect you, so you have to take that into account whenever you're building your deck or planning. Okay, so now that we've covered just about basically everything, I'm just going to run you guys through the cards that I have done right now, and I have a lot more on my iPad that, I still need to print out, but these are just the ones that I got prototypes of and the ones that I have printouts of. So, to begin, we'll start with Manta Ray. He is a water and magic type, and I love him because he's an easy, you know, at the start of the game, you just play him, and he's a low cost, you can save up for something nice, but whenever he is defeated, you gain 3 mana points. So, he's a nice little, you know, kind of thing that you can have on the field. Your opponent might not want to take him out because, you know, then you'll get the advantage, but he can also confuse creatures, so he's a really nice creature to have because he has a lot of cool effects. He also has a soft spot in my heart because he was one of the very first creatures that we came up with. Just like Mistgroom, because he's also one of the first creatures that we came up with as well. And he specializes a lot in just status. If he is defeated, then your opponent goes to sleep for 2 turns, and you can also poison and confuse your opponent with him. He is a nature and magic, and he is a little devil monster, but he can't directly attack. He has to inflict status effects on you in order for him to attack. So that's where he kind of has his weakness. And then we have Sniffle Skitter. He's just a basic common, he was one of the first ones that we made, and I said, okay, this is going to be the weak card of our game, and it's going to be just a normal, low HP, low damage, just basic creature. And then he evolves into Snifflegruff. He gains the magic type, and then he gains the ability to confuse opponents and gets an ability. And then we have Snazzle. He is just a common fire and dark type. Fire and dark type are 2 of the most offensive types, and dark types like to specialize in trickery and just making a ruckus. So he has 2 attacks of each type, and they just do flat damage. But whenever he evolves into Snizzle Obra, then his attacks have the ability to deal extra effects. So this one can burn the opponent, and this one can poison the opponent. Next we have Colcupine. He's just a basic, you know, fire and normal type, and he evolves into Pinnacle. This is one that my brother designed, and I actually photocopied this one, which a lot of the ones that he designed I photocopied, and we traced over it, and I made his design digital, and we worked with it from there. Now, he actually came up with Pinnacle, but I thought that it would be really nice to have a cutesy little, you know, hedgehog creature. So I came up with Colcupine in order to be his first evolution. And then we get into the Topazes, and we have Impleton here. Impleton is really cool because he can heal, and he's also kind of a good attacker a little bit, I guess, because he has this dark type move. And then he evolves into Shamaton, and Shamaton can also heal and attack. So this is a nice support card. They also have the ability called Call for Savior. So when there are 2 or more Impletons or Shamatons on the battlefield, which of course in order to have a Shamaton you have to have played it on top of an Impleton, then you can discard one of them in order to call a Sapphire, Amethyst, or Obsidian creature from your deck to your hand. So I thought that was a pretty cool ability because these guys are kind of like, I don't know, little worshipers. They love to worship. If you read their flavor text, then it says a lot about that. And then next we have Necrosum. He's just a normal and ghost type. And then we have Damager. He is the evolved form of that, and his ability is Play Dead. So every 3 rounds, you can turn him sideways before your opponent's turn, and your opponent may not attack him. Next we have Dredgeodon. This is another one that my little brother designed, and I think he's pretty cool. He's just a little heavy hitter, a little water dark type. And then his evolved form, this one my brother also came up with, and he's basically the same thing, except he, you know, has just little slightly better attacks because this one can poison the opponent and he has better health. Next we have Dreamweaver, and he's just a magic and ghost type, and he's one of my favorite creatures that I've come up with because his ability Dream Eater is really cool. So whenever the opponent is asleep, all of his moves become drains. And this guy has low-key kind of high attack and high damaging moves. So whenever that's combined with being a drain, then he's just gonna go crazy. So this guy will be great for sleep teams. And this is the only creature that I've ever made that probably will and does have the ability to have a drain that is not a ghost type move. So he can actually have a magic type drain, which drains basically just takes half the damage that you did to your opponent and heals you for that amount. So if we go back to Damager, he has Rotting Swipe, and it basically says that he gets healed for half the damage done to the opponent. Next we have the Cursed Antler, and he also has a drain attack and a really good nature attack. His ability says, if the field card Gaia's Grace is active, this creature gains 20 HP per turn. So he's going to be really good for Gaia's Grace, different kinds of decks and stuff. I wanted a lot of these creatures to have abilities that would correspond to the different kinds of field cards that were available. That way you can kind of base decks around your field cards, and whenever you have your field card active, your creatures gain good abilities and good boosts. Next, we have the first Amethyst, which Amethyst and Obsidian are the rarest, and they're going to be pretty hard to get inside of the packs. And he has 300 HP. He is a monster tank. This guy is going to be crazy hard to kill. But the thing about Amethyst and Obsidians is whenever your Amethyst creature is defeated, then you have to draw 2 instead of 1 life card. And whenever your Obsidian creature is defeated, you have to draw 3 instead of 1 life card. So I think it helps balance them out a lot more and make them not just some overpowered thing that you want to get out on the field immediately. Which they still kind of are like that, but it puts a lot more damper on that. So basically what this guy is going to be about is his ability is really good for healing status effects off of your creatures on your battlefield. And his name and his evolved form's name come from the scientific name for the lotus flower because they have a lotus on top of their head. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Now his evolved form, Nucepifera, has slightly a better ability because its ability says is if you flip a coin and it lands on heads, then your creature gets healed for 1 of its status effects. So you get to pick 1 status effect to take off one of the creatures on your battlefield. But its evolved form, if you land on heads on your coin flip, then it'll heal all of the status effects on one of your creatures on your battlefield. So say you're battling somebody who just loves status effects. They got all the status effects out on the field. They are just running house on you. Your creatures are dying like crazy. They can't do anything. Well then, on this creature's turn, if it gets its heads, you can take all these off. You can heal it for all of its status effects. So for an Amethyst, they have a crazy ability. It is so good. Next, we're going to get into the very, very rare, like the legendary of the game, or at least set 1, and that is going to be Emberosa. This is actually one of the creatures that my little brother came up with, and I thought he was so cool. I loved that the legendary of the game was a fire and a ghost type, because those are like 2 of my favorite types. And he's going to be really crazy hard to kill because he's got insane health, and he has a drain, and does massive damage. Now, defeating him will grant you a great step ahead in the game because then your opponent has to draw 3 life cards, which is a huge penalty, but it's going to be very, very tough to defeat him nonetheless. And especially if your opponent gets him to evolve into the Scorched Soul Drangel, then you're going to have a hard time, because then his attacks do even more, and his ability Desperation says if this creature has 30 or less HP left, then you add 40 damage to all attacks done by this creature. So he's just going to be sweeping house with how much power he has, and he has insane health too, so he's just going to be hard to defeat, especially since he has times mana points. So you can play any amount of mana points. Say you only have 2 mana points left, you want to get an attack off, you want to do some high damage. You can play just 2 mana points, and that'll make his Rain of Fire do 100 damage or 60 damage with Soul Drain. Or if you've been saving your mana points, you want to go crazy, say you got 6 out, and you go for that Rain of Fire, you are doing 300 damage against your opponent, and you are most likely taking them out. He is going to be crazy good and crazy tough, and I cannot wait for see what people do with these cards. Next, we're going to kind of like pay a little tribute to my little brothers and, you know, what cards they came up with and just the different creatures that they have directly put into the game. These are creatures that, you know, they drew and I just retouched up their designs and let them go crazy with it. So these are their cards that they came up with. As you can tell, I'm pretty sure all of them except for this one is in the starter deck. So I wanted to fill the starter deck with a lot of the cards that they came up with. And then we also have Mana Ray that my little brother came up with a concept for, but I came up with the drawing by myself. And then the Cursed Antler, which my brother came up with a concept for, but I drew myself. And these cards, they feel great. They feel exactly like regular playing cards. And, you know, they are just a blast to have. That's one of my downsides with, you know, not liking the way that the game crafter prints their things, is that they have amazing quality. And these cards, they feel exactly like Magic, Pokemon, you know, all the different major trading card games, and just their feel, it feels great. It feels like a card. So it makes me really sad that some of these didn't print out, you know, like I had them in mind. Like these ones, these are really, really bright on my iPad. You can really tell the difference between where they are, and the ones with dark backgrounds, they just don't look, you know, very good. Like this one, it looks amazing on my iPad. I put so much work into this creature, and it just, it's not there. But anyways, that's it for the creatures that I have done right now. We're going to go over just some of the spell and item cards real quick. And we'll just do one last little overview of some of the last couple things. There are more spell and field cards that I have that are coming. I have them already printed, but I wanted to save something more for the next teaser video that I'm going to come out with instead of just showing some more creatures. So first, we already talked about all these spell cards. These are just the ones that I had in my demonstration. And then the field cards, these are the ones that I had in my demonstration as well. And then we're going to go over all the item cards that I have in the game. And these are probably going to be the only item cards in the game, but we'll see. So first we have draw card. This just allows you to draw one card. You know, you pay 1 mana point and you draw a card. It's pretty basic. This one's called Fortune Teller. Your opponent shows you the back of their hand, and you choose 2 cards for them to flip over and reveal to you, and then your opponent can shuffle their hand if you want. This just lets you get an edge, see what your opponent has, and, you know, play around that. And then this is White Flag. It allows your creatures to retreat at a very low cost. Say you want to get rid of, you know, your Cursed Antler on the field. Well, he's going to cost 4 to retreat because he's a Sapphire. Well, with this card, you can, at the hindrance of having to put it in your deck, make him retreat for 1 mana point. And then we have Leech Mana. This basically just steals 1 mana from your opponent, and then you gain him the cost of the card back after you play it. And then a Tiny Health Vial. This just heals one of your creatures for 30 HP. And then Mana Gift. When this card is played, you gain 3 mana points at the cost of, you know, it costs 1 mana point to play, but then you get 3. And then we have Wither Flower. You play this card sideways above one of your opponent's creatures, and they cannot heal for 2 turns. And then we have Burn Heal. This item heals 1 creature from the status effect Burning. And then Awakening does the same thing for Sleep. And then Antidote does the same thing for Poisoning. And then we have Soul Link. So if you discard 1 card from your hand, and then you choose 3 of your opponent's cards to discard from their hand. And then we have Health Vial. This just heals your creature for 60 HP. And this one is a topaz. So this one was 2 mana points for 60, and the other one was a ruby, so it was 1 mana point for 30 HP. And then we have Winds of Unburdening. This just removes all the field cards from the field. So if your opponent has, you know, a Guy's Grace up and you don't have a field card to take their Guy's Grace off, then you can play Winds of Unburdening and they have to discard their field card. And then we have Reshuffle. This allows you to draw 6 cards from your discard pile and add them back to your deck. And then Treasure Hunt. This allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your deck, and then you choose 4, and then you put those 4 back into your hand, which that is crazy. For just one of your plays, you get 4 cards. So that is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked this video and, you know, you're excited to see the different things that I come out with next, and you're excited to either play the game or just take a look at what's gonna come to this channel, then drop a comment down below and subscribe and let me know what you guys want to see. Pretty soon I'm gonna be coming out with the second video, which is also going to be a teaser video, and it's gonna show a couple more cards. I'm almost ready to order another batch of cards from the Game Crafter, and so I'm really excited to show you all those new creatures that I've been working on. I really, really love the new creatures that I'm working on, and I kind of like them a lot better than some of these that, you know, I have already made. But, you know, it's a learning process. If you guys see any balancing issues and you think that I should change some things, let me know so I can get it done before I publish the game for real, for real. And if you guys want a how to play video very soon, then subscribe, because I'm going to have one coming up very soon that'll go into detail of everything in the rule book and just all the rules and how to play. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.